Growth is not always about adding more. It's about releasing what no longer serves your highest good. Sometimes the most powerful changes happen silently. When you quietly let go of what drains your energy, you open the door for peace, love, and abundance to enter. Self-doubt is one of the most subtle yet powerful forces that can quietly sabotage your potential, your happiness, and your dreams. It rarely shouts, it whispers. It creeps in when you are about to make a brave decision, when you are on the edge of growth, or when you dare to dream bigger than your current reality. It tells you that you are not ready, that you might fail, that you do not have what it takes. It thrives in moments of hesitation and feeds off past disappointments, turning them into evidence against your own worth. Yet the truth is, self-doubt is not a fact. It is a habit thought, a pattern that can be released and rewritten. Many times, self-doubt comes from the stories we were told as children, the criticisms we internalized, the moments when we felt unseen, unheard, or not good enough. Over time, these small cuts became a voice in our mind that questions every step we take. You might have noticed that when you have an exciting idea, that voice says, "What if you fail?" Or "Who do you think you are to do this?" And so you stop before you even start. You shrink yourself to avoid the imagined pain of failing or being judged. But in truth, that hesitation costs far more than any failure ever could. Because failure teaches while self-doubt paralyzes. To begin eliminating self-doubt, you must first become aware of how often it appears. Notice the times you say, "I can't," "I'm not ready," or "I'm not enough." These phrases are like weeds in the garden of your mind. You do not need to fight them with force. You need to observe them and then gently choose a new seed to plant. Start with simple affirmations. I am willing to try. I am learning as I go. I am worthy of success. These are not empty words. They are small but powerful antidotes. Begin to reprogram the beliefs that hold you back. Another step is to remember that everyone, even the most confident and accomplished people you admire, has moments of doubt. The difference is they do not allow that doubt to dictate their actions. Courage is not the absence of self-doubt. Courage is moving forward despite it. When you feel unsure, take one small step. Action is the most powerful cure for uncertainty. Each step you take proves to your mind that you are capable, that you can handle more than you once believed. It is also important to surround yourself with lift that you rather than echo your fears. Be mindful of who you share your dreams with. Some will water them and others will step on them, not because they are cruel, but because they, too, live in their own self-doubt. Choose environments that remind you of your potential. Books, mentors, friends, or even your own reflections of past achievements. No matter how small they may seem, they are evidence that you have already overcome so much. And remember, self-doubt often disguises itself as perfectionism. It says, "Wait until you are ready. Wait until you know everything." Or, "Wait until it's perfect." But readiness is a myth. Perfection is an illusion. Growth comes from beginning before you feel fully prepared and trusting that you will learn what you need along the way. Every expert was once a beginner who dared to be imperfect. As you release self-doubt, speak kindly to yourself. Treat yourself as you would a dear friend who is learning, growing, and trying their best. When mistakes happen, and they will, do not use them as proof of your inadequacy. See them as steps, as teachers, as part of your unfolding. Say to yourself, "I am growing. I am becoming." Over time, this gentle voice will replace the critical one, and you will find that what once felt impossible now feels like a natural next step. Ultimately, self-doubt is only as powerful as the attention you give it. The moment you stop feeding it with fear, shame, or overthinking, it begins to wither. You were not born doubting yourself, you learn to. And what is learned can be unlearned. Begin to trust your inner wisdom. Begin to believe that the universe does not place dreams in your heart to tease you. It places them there because they are possible for you. Every great journey begins with a single decision to believe, even a little, that you are capable. Let that be your starting point. Let your heart be louder than your fear. Let your faith in your potential outweigh the shadows of your past. Quietly, steadily, you can release self-doubt and step into a life where your choices are guided not by fear of failure, but by the possibility of growth, joy, and success. Toxic connections often begin quietly. They don't always announce themselves with loud arguments or visible harm. Instead, they gradually drain your energy, dim your light, and distort the way you see yourself. These connections can come in many forms. Friends, partners, colleagues, or even family members who consistently leave you feeling smaller, unworthy, or unsettled. It is not always about what they do. Sometimes it is what they fail to do. Support you, uplift you, respect you, or celebrate your growth. Over time, staying connected to those who pull you down begins to shape your choices, your confidence, and even your future. That is why learning to quietly release such connections is one of the greatest acts of self-respect. You do not need to fight, argue, or create a dramatic exit when you recognize a toxic bond. Often the most powerful decision is a silent one, at a choice to stop feeding the connection with your time, energy, or emotional availability. Toxic people thrive on reaction. They thrive on your need to explain, to fix, to convince them to change. But true strength comes from understanding that your energy is precious and not everyone deserves access to it. When you step back without noise, you give yourself the gift of peace and clarity. It can be difficult to accept that some people you once cared for deeply may no longer belong in your future. We hold on to them because of history, because of loyalty, or because of hope that one day they will become who we wish they were. But keeping someone in your life only because of the past is like trying to live in a house you have already outgrown. It will never feel like home again. Growth often means outgrowing people, and that is not cruelty, it is evolution. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and them is to step away, so that both of you can find the spaces where you truly belong. When you begin to release toxic connections, guilt may try to visit you. Questions arise. Am I being selfish? Am I being too harsh? But there is a great difference between selfishness and self-preservation. You are not meant to exhaust yourself to keep others comfortable. Your purpose is not to carry the weight of those who refuse to carry themselves. When you honor your own peace, you are also teaching others how to value their own boundaries. It is not unkind to protect your soul. It is necessary. Toxic connections often disguise themselves as normal relationships with occasional bad moments. But if over time, the pattern leaves you anxious, drained, or constantly questioning your worth, that is your signal. Healthy connections bring balance. They may have ups and downs, but they do not consistently leave you empty. Toxic ones demand you to shrink, to apologize for your truth, to bend until you break. Releasing them does not mean you wish them harm. It means you wish yourself peace. As you step back from these connections, focus on the space you are creating. Nature does not leave a vacuum. When something leaves your life, something better can enter, whether that is true friendship, genuine love, or a deeper relationship with yourself. The energy you once used to explain, to defend, to repair can now be used to grow, to create, and to heal. This quiet act of elimination is not a loss, it is a reclaiming of your life force. Sometimes you will find that you do not need to cut ties completely. Distance is enough. Less contact, fewer conversations, clearer boundaries. Not every ending needs to be loud. Quiet decisions often last the longest because they come from deep clarity rather than sudden emotion. And with time, you will notice how your mind feels lighter, your heart feels calmer, and your days begin to align with what nourishes you rather than what drains you. In truth, every person who leaves your life creates room for a lesson or a blessing. The toxic ones often teach you the most important lesson of all, how to choose yourself. They show you where your boundaries were weak, where your self-worth needed strengthening, and where your need for approval was greater than your need for peace. Take those lessons with gratitude and then release the rest. Do not carry their weight into your future. The quiet elimination of toxic connections is not an act of bitterness. It is an act of love. Love for your well-being, your dreams, and your future self. You are allowed to move forward without carrying everyone with you. Some will follow, some will fall away, and some were never meant to walk beside you in the next chapter of your life. Trust that the people who are meant to stay will feel lighter, kinder, and truer. And for those who are not, let them go gently, without resentment, without anger, but with a full heart that finally chooses peace over chaos. Negative self-talk is one of the most silent forms of self-sabotage, and yet it carries some of the loudest consequences in our lives. It is the quiet narrative that runs through your mind. Those critical whispers that say, "You are not good enough," "You always mess things up," or "You don't deserve better." Often, it begins so early in life that it feels like a normal part of your thinking, but it is not your truth. It is a collection of echoes from past experiences, from other people's fears, judgments, and projections that you unknowingly adopted as your own. Over time, these repeated words become beliefs, and those beliefs shape how you see yourself, how you treat yourself, and even what you allow yourself to receive. Every thought you think sends a message to your subconscious mind, and your subconscious does not argue, it accepts. So, when you repeatedly tell yourself negative things, your mind starts to build your reality around them. If you constantly say, "I'm not smart enough to do this," your mind will filter opportunities in a way that supports that belief. If you whisper, "I always fail," you unconsciously pull back your effort because failure has already been declared. This is why negative self-talk is so damaging. It limits not just your thinking, but your very potential to try, to grow, and to thrive. To shift this pattern, the first step is awareness. Begin to listen to the language you use when you speak to yourself, especially in moments of challenge or disappointment. How do you respond to your mistakes? Do you call yourself names, or do you offer yourself understanding? Many people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to someone they love. Imagine saying to a child, "You'll never get it right, you're useless." You would never do that because you know how harmful it is. And yet, for many, that is exactly what the inner dialogue sounds like. It is time to break that cycle. Once you hear those thoughts, do not fight them with anger. Fighting them often makes them louder. Instead, pause and question them. Ask, "Is this really true? Where did I learn this? Does this thought make me stronger? Or does it keep me small?" This gentle questioning starts to loosen the grip that negative self-talk has on your mind. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. And as the observer, you have the power to choose a new dialogue. Replacing negative self-talk with empowering language is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about speaking to yourself with honesty and compassion. If you made a mistake, instead of saying, "I'm so stupid," try, "I made a mistake, but I am learning." If something feels hard, instead of, "I'll never do this," say, This is challenging, but I can find a way. These small shifts may seem simple, but they create profound changes over time because your words become the seeds of your self-belief. It is also important to remember that negative self-talk thrives in environments of comparison and perfectionism. The more you measure yourself against others, the more ammunition you give that inner critic. And the more you strive to meet impossible standards, the more evidence it gathers to convince you that you are falling short. To break this, start focusing on your own path. Celebrate small steps. Acknowledge progress, not perfection. Speak to yourself like a supportive guide, not a relentless judge. Another powerful way to dissolve negative self-talk is through daily affirmations and intentional repetition of positive truths. At first, it may feel unnatural to say, "I am capable," or "I deserve good things," especially if you have carried years of harsh inner dialogue. But repetition is how the old thoughts were planted, and repetition is how they can be replaced. The mind learns through what it hears most often. So, speak to yourself with kindness until kindness becomes the voice you expect. Letting go of negative self-talk does not mean you will never have another doubtful thought. It means those thoughts will no longer rule you. They will arise, but you will recognize them as old patterns, not present truths. You will hear them and choose differently. And with each choice, you build a new inner landscape, one where encouragement, patience, and self-belief take root. Imagine the life you could create if your inner voice became your greatest ally instead of your harshest critic. Imagine how much more you would try, how much more peace you would feel, and how many doors would open when you no longer sabotage yourself with unkind words. This is the gift you give yourself when you begin to release negative self-talk, freedom to become who you really are without the weight of inner judgment. You deserve to be on your own side. You deserve to be spoken to with respect by the one person you are with every moment of your life yourself. Begin gently. Begin today. Replace the old words with ones that heal. Over time, that new voice will become not just a habit, but your truth. Fear of change is one of the greatest barriers between who you are now and who you have the potential to become. It is a quiet resistance that lives in the mind, whispering reasons to stay where you are even when that place no longer nurtures your growth. This fear often disguises itself as caution or logic, saying things like, "What if it doesn't work out?" Or, "What if I lose what I already have?" But underneath those thoughts is usually something much deeper. A fear of stepping into the unknown, a fear of losing control, and a fear of the discomfort that often comes with transformation. Change by its nature asks you to leave the familiar. And the familiar, no matter how limiting, often feels safer because you know its shape, its routine, its outcomes. The mind is wired to prefer predictability. It would rather stay in a situation that feels uncomfortable, but known than risk stepping into something better that feels uncertain. This is why so many people stay in unfulfilling jobs, unhealthy relationships, or stagnant routines. They convince themselves that what they know is at least stable, when in truth, it is slowly draining their potential. Fear of change often comes from past experiences where a change did not go as planned, or where you felt unprepared for what came after. Those moments plant a seed that says, change equals loss, or change equals chaos. But not all change brings loss. Many times, it brings expansion. Think of the changes you once feared that turned out to be blessings. Moving to a new place, starting something new, ending something that no longer worked. In hindsight, those changes shaped you, strengthened you, and opened doors that would never have appeared otherwise. One of the most important steps in overcoming fear of change is to recognize that fear is not a stop sign. It is a signal that you are stepping into something unfamiliar. Fear does not mean you are doing something wrong. It often means you are growing. Growth and fear are deeply connected, because anytime you stretch beyond your comfort zone, your mind will send alarms to try and protect you. But those alarms are not truth, they are habit. They are the brain trying to keep you where it feels safe, even if that safety is built on limitation. To begin loosening the grip of fear, start with small acts of change. You do not have to leap immediately into the unknown. You can step into it. Each small change builds proof that you can handle the unknown. Rearrange your routine, try a new approach. Allow yourself to take one small risk. These small movements build the muscle of adaptability, and over time, they tell your mind, I can handle change. I can navigate newness. Another powerful way to move through fear of change is to reframe what change means to you. Instead of seeing it as a threat, see it as a teacher. Change reveals your resilience. It shows you what is truly essential and what was only holding space. It introduces you to new strengths you did not know you had. And most importantly, it clears the old to make room for the new. Life is always evolving. Nature itself moves through seasons, shedding leaves to make room for new growth. You are no different. Often, the fear of change comes from a need to control every outcome. But control is an illusion. No one can predict every detail of the future. The only real power you have is your ability to respond to what comes, to trust yourself in the process, and to believe that even if the path is not straight, it can still lead somewhere meaningful. Trust is the antidote to fear. Trust that you will find your way. Trust that life has a way of supporting those who are willing to move. It is also helpful to imagine the cost of staying the same. Many people fear change because they focus only on what they might lose, not on what they will lose by standing still. Ask yourself, what will it cost me if I stay here 1 more year, 5 more years? Often, the answer is far more painful than the fear of stepping forward. Regret grows where change is resisted. When you begin to embrace change, you start to see that it does not have to be dramatic or destructive. It can be graceful, intentional, and even gentle. It is the quiet choice to release an old habit, to set a new boundary, to say yes to an opportunity you once feared. Change becomes less about what you leave behind and more about what you create. In truth, change is life. Nothing in nature stays the same. Rivers move, seasons shift, flowers bloom and fade, and yet we call this flow beautiful. The same flow exists in your life. The more you resist it, the more it feels like struggle. The more you align with it, the more it feels like growth. Fear will always knock at the door when you stand at the threshold of transformation, but you get to decide whether you let it stop you or simply let it walk beside you as you step forward anyway. The life you desire is often waiting just on the other side of that fear. Each time you choose movement over stagnation, courage over comfort, and trust over control, you teach your heart that it is safe to expand. Change is not your enemy. It is your invitation to become the version of yourself that your old life could not hold. Resentment and grudges are like carrying heavy stones in your heart. At first, you may not notice the weight because you have become used to it, but over time, it begins to slow you down, drain your energy, and cloud your ability to move forward. They are born from hurt. When someone wronged you, betrayed you, or failed to meet the expectations you held, the pain was real, the disappointment was real, and the anger felt justified. Yet holding on to that anger long after the moment has passed becomes a prison of your own making. The person who hurt you may have moved on, forgotten, or perhaps never even realized the depth of their actions, but you continue to carry the story inside you, reliving it again and again, keeping the wound alive. Resentment often feels like a form of protection. It tells you that by holding on, you are making sure it never happens again. It convinces you that letting go means letting them off the hook, that forgiveness is a sign of weakness. But the truth is, resentment does not protect you. It poisons you. It does not stop the past from happening. It keeps the past happening inside of you. Each time you replay the hurt, you re-experience the pain. Each time you nurture the grudge, you feed it energy that could be used for your healing, your growth, your peace. Letting go of resentment does not mean you excuse the behavior or invite that person back into your life. It does not mean you approve of what happened. It means you choose to stop carrying the emotional burden. You decide to stop allowing that event or person to occupy valuable space in your mind and heart. Forgiveness, in this sense, is not about them. It is about you. It is an act of freedom, a way of saying, I deserve peace more than I deserve to be right. This process begins with honesty. Admit to yourself where resentment lives inside you. Sometimes it is loud and obvious, other times it hides beneath sarcasm, detachment, or bitterness that shows up in unrelated moments. Ask yourself, who am I still holding in my heart with anger? What story do I keep telling that only keeps me stuck? Awareness is the first step in softening its grip. Once you become aware of the resentment, resist the urge to shame yourself for feeling it. You held on to it for a reason. It was a way to cope, a way to feel safe, a way to give meaning to the pain. But now, if you are ready to move forward, you must gently begin to loosen your hold. One way to do this is by shifting your focus from what they did to what you learned. Every hurt carries a lesson. It may have taught you to set better boundaries, to listen to your intuition, to value yourself more deeply, or to recognize what you truly deserve. Extract the lesson and let the rest go. Another step is to create distance where needed. You do not have to keep close ties with those who have hurt you. Forgiveness is an inner process, not always a relationship repair. You can forgive someone and still choose not to walk beside them in the future. In fact, that is often the healthiest choice. True letting go is not about forcing closeness. It is about releasing the emotional charge that binds you. Sometimes, resentment lingers because you never gave yourself permission to feel the full pain in the first place. You buried it, telling yourself to be strong, to move on, to forget. But buried pain does not dissolve, it waits. Allow yourself to feel the sadness, the disappointment, the anger, without judgment. Feeling it does not mean you are weak. It means you are cleansing the wound so it can finally heal. As you release resentment, something beautiful happens. Space opens. Your energy becomes lighter. You no longer walk through life scanning for old threats or rehearsing old conversations in your mind. You begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that were stuck in that moment. Peace replaces tension. Clarity replaces bitterness. And most importantly, you return to yourself, no longer defined by what someone else did or failed to do. This is a quiet process. There may be no dramatic moment, no outward declaration. One day you simply notice that their name no longer triggers you, that their memory no longer feels like a sharp edge. You simply feel free. And that freedom is not a gift from them. It is a gift you give to yourself. Resentment and grudges may feel like strength, but true strength is in releasing what hurts you, not holding it tighter. It is in saying, this happened, but it does not define me. I choose my peace over my pain. That choice is always yours, and every time you make it, you step closer to the life you deserve, one that is lighter, clearer, and no longer chained to the weight of the past. There comes a time in every life when the quiet whisper that says, "You're not enough," becomes so familiar that it almost feels like a part of your identity. This belief often doesn't arrive loudly. It creeps in gently, shaped by years of comparison, criticism, and unhealed moments. It may have started in childhood from a careless remark or a lack of affirmation, and over time, it rooted itself deep within your heart. The thought that you're not enough is a silent thief. It steals your confidence, your joy, and your willingness to embrace life fully. It convinces you that no matter how hard you try, it will never be sufficient. But here's a powerful truth. This belief is not yours by nature. It was planted, and what has been planted can always be uprooted. Living with the belief that you're not enough creates a cycle that keeps you striving for external validation. You may find yourself overworking, overgiving, or overpleasing, hoping that someone else's approval will finally make you feel worthy. But that worthiness does not live in the hands of others. It lives within you, waiting to be acknowledged. When you hold this belief, you view your life through a distorted lens. Every failure feels like proof, every rejection feels like a verdict, and every mistake becomes an echo that reinforces the untruth. The journey toward freedom starts by recognizing that these are only stories your mind has been repeating, not absolute facts about your being. Ask yourself, who told you that you are not enough? Was it a parent who was too busy to notice your achievements? Was it a partner who couldn't see your light because they were lost in their own shadows? Or perhaps it was society, with its endless comparisons and unattainable standards. Whoever it was, their words or actions do not define your value. You came into this world already whole, already worthy, already enough. The challenge is not in becoming enough, but in remembering that you already are. Letting go of this belief requires courage, because it often means facing the places where you abandoned yourself. It asks you to release the need to perform for love and instead start to love yourself simply for existing. This is not about arrogance or pride. This is about acceptance. It is about standing in front of the mirror and saying, I am enough as I am right now, even when a part of you wants to argue otherwise. At first, those words may feel foreign, even false, but they are the antidote to years of silent self-rejection. The more you speak them, the more your heart begins to believe them. Notice how this belief has shaped your decisions. How many opportunities you said no to because you thought you weren't capable. How many relationships you stayed in because you believed you didn't deserve better. How many dreams you put on hold because you feared they were too big for someone like you. This is the cost of carrying the lie that you're not enough. It limits your vision, it shrinks your potential, and it keeps you living in a version of your life that is smaller than the one you were meant for. Begin to treat yourself as someone who is already enough. Celebrate your small wins, honor your progress, forgive your missteps, and show compassion to the parts of you that still doubt. Surround yourself with people and environments that affirm your worth rather than question it. Feed your mind with thoughts that uplift rather than diminish. When that inner voice whispers the old lie, respond with truth. I am enough, I always have been, and I always will be. At every moment you choose to believe in your enoughness, you create a ripple that touches every part of your life. Your relationships, your health, your success, and your joy. It does not mean you will stop growing or striving. It means you will finally grow from a place of love rather than lack. You will no longer chase worthiness like a distant prize. You will embody it as your natural state. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not missing something essential. The belief that you're not enough was never yours to carry, and you have the power to put it down now. From this moment forward, choose to see yourself through kinder eyes. The world does not need a perfect version of you. It needs the real you, the one who knows their worth, the one who shows up fully, the one who no longer asks permission to be enough.